If you're looking for strategic and actionable business advice, then you've come to the right place. Each week we'll provide you with valuable information that will help you grow your practice profitably. Hi, I'm Debra.
And I'm Sabrina, and welcome to Chiropractic Purpose to Profits. We will be your guides to creating a profitable practice and an abundant lifestyle. Whether you're just starting out or have been in practice for years, we've got something for everyone. So make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you never miss an episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 3 ways that you can maximize your work-life balance with Profit First. So the first one that we're going to talk about is how Profit First helps you create clearly defined goals. This is one of the things that we've really seen makes a huge difference for our practices, because a lot of chiropractors, when you start your practice, you don't necessarily know what is good and bad in terms of how much operating expenses you should spend on, what should you get paid, what's profits, what should I save for taxes, and this kind of all creates a little bit of confusion, and it's easy to overspend, especially today where there's so many different options for marketing tools and office management softwares, and there's all these tools you can add to your practice, and it just all adds up really quickly. So one of the great things about Profit First is because it's a percentage-based system, you have these targets that you know that you're working towards. So it really holds you accountable to reaching your goals. And by doing this, it helps you understand what you're trying to achieve so that instead of just working harder and harder and harder and hoping that you'll make more money, which you probably know doesn't happen necessarily, you know now where you need to focus to reach the goals that you're trying to achieve in your practice. And
So,
I know
Sabrina, how do they do that? How will they know that? Like, what would let them know how much they can allocate? How does that happen for them?
Well, first you have to start by looking at how much you're spending in the 4 key areas: um, owner's comp, tax, and operating expenses. Well, those are the 3 key areas. And then the profits is kind of, when you get started, you back into it. But you take a look at your financial statements and you look to see how much you're spending in each of those areas, and then calculate the percentage of revenue that goes to each of those areas. And that'll give you an idea where you are. And then from there, you can make goals on how to get to where you want to go.
Right. And I think in the book, in the Profit First for Chiro book, that, I
Mhm.
absolutely recommend everybody get before they start anything, because, that's all about how Profit First works for chiropractors. But I believe we have some standards in there that people can look at so they get an idea of what they're trying to achieve, because so many times we hear people who don't even know what they should be trying to achieve. And they just
Yeah,
go down the wrong path of spending too much.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy to overspend. And yeah, right in the middle of the book, we have the target percentages based on the revenue for all of the practice. And this was from all the research that we did, both working with clients, interviewing people, as well as talking with other really successful practices. And we put this together from all that research. And these are really what the elite practices are achieving. So it just gives you an idea of what's reasonable so that you know what you want to work towards.
And I guess, like you said, they have to first start out doing the homework of finding out where they are. And then they might be ahead of the elites, but they might be behind. But at least it gives them a gauge of, hey, based on this volume, this is how I'm performing.
Right, too. And I think we talk about this in the beginning of the book. It's the whole first chapter. We talk about clearly defining your goals. And I think this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners kind of forget. We get so wrapped up in the day-to-day work, we forget to look at what we're actually trying to achieve. And that's such an important step. And I think that's really one of the things that Profit First helps you do, because by using these percentages, it keeps you focused on what you're spending and the goals that you created.
So I guess what we're saying is every dollar they make when they're going to practice, they'll know in advance how much is going to them, what's going to profits, and what they can spend on things if they start to follow the Profit First system.
Right, exactly. And then finally, your operating expenses are what's living with what's left over and not you. And that brings us to the second point on how you can maximize your work-life balance with Profit First. So the second one is that you're now prioritizing owner's comp. And by doing that, you're creating a stable home environment. And I think this too is another really important thing that you need to have in order to have that work-life balance that you so desire. Because when you have a small business and your whole life is tied to how that business is performing, if you don't prioritize paying yourself, then your work life or your home life starts to deteriorate, which then carries over into your work life. So by prioritizing owner's compensation, you're ensuring that you're giving yourself enough at home to live a life that allows you to be healthy and relaxed and stress free.
Yeah. I mean, we've gotten so many letters from spouses who
Mhm.
actually, when we first started doing this, we were working with the docs. And then next thing we knew, some of the spouses were joining the call because they were like, wow, what are you doing? This is their home life improved. They
Mhm.
now knew what they could spend on college for their kids, when they can go on vacation, that they actually were starting to have plans and they were getting out of debt, which I
Mhm.
know we're going to be talking about on another episode. So that was another offset that Profit First does.
Right, too. And also another thing for entrepreneurs and chiropractors is our the whole identity tends to be tied to our business. So when the business does well, our identity and we feel good about ourselves. But when the business does bad, we feel bad about ourselves. And First helps even that fluctuation out, and it creates a foundation and a solid foundation from which you can work from, and you can hopefully separate the two, so you don't always think so like personally about your business.
Makes sense. So
So, and
what's the third key?
so the last thing you can do for maximizing your work-life balance with Profit First is it really gives you this sense of control. And we kind of touched on this already, but it's definitely the most important part. When you feel like you don't have control over the situation, you aren't effective. You're worrying about things when you shouldn't be. You're not doing things you should be doing. And then you feel just like out of control. Uh, so Um, really, by implementing Profit First, it gives you a way to make sure that like Deb said, that for every dollar that comes into the business, I can spend 65 cents on operating expenses. So if I need to buy something that's $65, I need to make $100 in revenue. So it gives you that sense of understanding and control of what you can and cannot do. And it also allows you to stop feeling guilty about not doing things on a time when you shouldn't be doing it anyway. Like when you're adjusting your patients, you shouldn't be worrying about whether or not you can pay for your electric bill. That's not the time. And you also shouldn't be worrying about if you did pay your electric bill. So Profit First sets up a system and a rhythm so that you know when and where you should be doing things and how you should be doing things, which gives you that sense of control that you may be lacking.
Yep. One of the things I think people are probably getting, we're pretty passionate about chiropractors introducing Profit First into their practice because we know the benefit that it can really bring them. A very,
Mhm.
very small changes will give them so much control and power. And that power is going to really go into their passion of what they're doing in their day-to-day office for their patients and their community.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So if you like what you heard today, the next steps for you are to grab a copy of the Profit First for Chiropractors. We'll link it below in the description, as well as you can search for it on Amazon. That book gives you all the information you need to get started on Profit First. It gives you what your percentages would be, how you go from where you are now. And you'll also hear from some of the doctors that we worked with and interviewed, hear a little bit about their stories, and start to understand maybe how things can change for you if you're in a position in which you feel stuck. So that's all for today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. So make sure that you hit the button to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you never miss another episode. Thank you.
Bye.